Okay. Hi, colleagues around the world. This is Fernando Thompson from Mexico. Thanks, Wendy, for the opportunity. As Wendy say, Universidad de las Américas Puebla is based in Mexico, in the state of Puebla, in the quiet and safe town of Cholula. It offers quality programs of academic excellence through its faculty. We have 300 full-time professors. 95% of them, they have graduate degrees. 4 of them are members of the National System of Researchers. My university, Universidad de las Américas Puebla, is accredited by international accreditation councils, such as the Southern Association for College Schools and of the Commission for College to grant, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees. And obviously, security here is one of our top priorities. When I say one of our top priorities is because I report directly to the president of the university. We have many priorities, but from my side is offering the best services and infrastructure of quality, and at the same time, security. I think that right now, all of us are aware that security is one of the biggest challenge that we have in our digital world. We have the largest information acquisition and the biggest multimedia gallery in the world. We can find services at low price like virtualization, IP telephony, messaging. Also, we have the largest world store mall ever, cash movement and huge amount of money through the internet, research and development, and the at your fingerprints. But at the same time, we're facing that, some struggling because we are always connected. The first one is, for instance, in the university, the social disconnection. I like this picture because if you watch the picture, everybody is involved, filming something, trying to post it. But if you watch the picture again, you're going to see somebody that is realizing what is happening in the moment. And it's just one from 100 that is only paying attention to what is happening. And you know what? In a university, it happened the same. No, most of our students right now are connected to the smartphones. They are not taking notes. They just are taking pictures of the blackboard and collecting videos during the classes. And this is not a joke, but if something happened in Vegas, now it stays in Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, whatever you mean. And also it brings a problem, with personality and personal information through the internet that I want to discuss also what we choose Trend Micro during my presentation, because identity is also, a big issue here. Cybercrime in Mexico is like a blue sky heaven for hackers. We have impressive black markets here, darknet, deep web, you name it. Internet could be a weapon, but for personal usurpation crime and even worse things in Mexico is huge. It's huge the landscape for the crime right now. Using the new platforms with cybersecurity taking the front on most of our boardroom. Now, my staff and I have more visibility than ever before, but at the same time, we're struggling with the budget in order to gain visibility of what we need to be more effective, and also searching for, practical techniques to gain full control over our assets and continuous security compliance, like, for instance, the assets. How can we discover our assets, categorize them, secure those assets, our borders, the endpoints that don't belong to the university? 10 years ago, I used to have full control of the network in the university because all the computers belong to the university. Now, 90% of the computers that connect to the network of the university don't belong to the university. They belong to the users, to the teachers, to the students, no? So borderless apply controls is a headache. And in order to be effective across these borders, we have to be smart and choose good suppliers in order to achieve our goals. In our case, we are not required compliance, but we achieve continuous compliance of standards worldwide in order to assure the services that we have. No, let me talk something about Mexico. Mexico is such a challenge. Mexico, and especially working in a university, you know, where unlike a corporate or a government agency where you can apply rigid regulations and hardware and software restrictions, but in higher education you can do that. It requires absolute freedom, and at the same time, you have to offer the same level of protection like the enterprise for the assets and protect your users, which make it a giant challenge. Mexico lacks of technology and security culture, plus the piracy industry, it makes it worse. I'm going to explain that during the presentation. The growing of electronic commerce and transactions in Mexico, and especially in our university, financial transactions in Mexico has grown. The percentage in Mexico bigger than in any latitude of Latin America. Every day, thousands and thousands of users using their smartphones and tablets perform purchase transactions. They buy product services that includes payments, for instance, of tuition, exams, and payments of services that we offer. But electronic means that, is good, but at the same time, we have a dark side talking about cybersecurity. I started 3 years ago, and what I found was, a poor culture of IT among my peers. They didn't know, and they was not aware of all the trends. And basically, we was just focused, making backups of the information, restoring them, and eventually have a disaster recovery plan. But with all the vulnerabilities and all what was happening across our university, and especially because we have communication with American universities, we start to make some questions about the true cause of the data breach, based on real examples and statistics. And this was very important to obtain money for the budget. Obtain real examples and statistics of what is happening in your company or in your institution. Also, we start to work with proactive defense because it was essentially and especially in a higher education landscape. And the third one is that our business case, we build a proactive security framework, and we start to think how technology can keep us safe and a step ahead of the next attack. I'm not lying. We received more than 200,000 attacks during the summertime. I think that is because some of our students and students around the world, they have so much time free in order to build this kind of thing. So Mexico and especially Latin America, we are very active against, especially governments, social governments, like in Venezuela, that people are against of them. And some students, in goodwill, they're trying to help. But the problem is that if they use our network and they go against any government, the IP address that faces the problem is not the identity of the user, is the IP address of the university. So obviously we have to protect also the reputation of the university. The most famous problems that we start to face, at least in our university, was for instance, phishing. Phishing, through email or instant messaging. And again, I can't close the services of instant messaging like Skype. I have to offer the services because it offers a value information and services for our teachers. But also I face problems like for instance, redirects with farming, or and the piracy problem that we have in Mexico. I'm going to talk later about it. Mexico, I think, is in the top three countries with the piracy problem, and I'm going to discuss what it brings to our university challenge. Scams and and access to free services like XMX or Netflix connection and stuff like that has to be available. So improper handling of information brings to the table, which vendors can offer me at the same time the quality and freedom that I need, but also a constant update of techniques in order to deliver a good service, but at the same time protect my assets. I talk with people of Forrester, Gartner, IDC, you name it, and the problem is that some of our the vendors, they just attend the United States of the main cities in the country of Mexico. So in this case, I need to choose not only the best technology, but also the same supplier that have a commitment in order to back me up in my actions and over daily basic operations. And eventually, spending almost 20% of my entire budget on security, I receive a requirement of a supplier of Trend Micro, and the name in here in Mexico is OCM, and they asked me for an opportunity to make a test. During that period of time, I have my IPS, I have my firewall, I have my antivirus, I have my anti-spyware, I thought, everything. So yes, we make this proof of concept. Also, at the same time, we was having a good supplier for for keep us aware of updating of our operating systems through our servers, and also the appliance that we have in our data center. But what I found was ugly. Uh, they make this POC proof of concept, and they offer me the result of it. For me was it was like an earthquake, because they show me that many of our endpoints, they have uh, huge amounts of virus and compromised computers. So they was exploiting vulnerabilities that even we was not aware of it. So identity thief was one of our main challenge. Bootnets, it was happening across the entire university, and obviously execution of malware by users, even than they was not aware of it. So we start to work with Trend Micro first in a plan, taking in count about what is happening in our university. And the first thing was to work about aware to our users about the social in January. Let me give you some numbers about what is happening in Mexico, okay? Because maybe this is not happening in America. For instance, nothing is free online here. In Mexico, 9 of 10 users of 10 people buy pirate products, and probably it's not just clothes or shoes. I mean, music, movies, and obviously software. But at the same time, the cartels in Mexico, they invest a lot of money because they place malware inside those DVDs, CDs with the software, in order to have this malware integrated in the software. And when the people use the personal computers to hear the music or to watch the videos, the malware is downloaded into the computer, and people are not aware of it. No. So basically in Mexico, the people spend around 50,000 million of pesos a year, a cover to our intellectual property committee of commerce of the American Chambers of Commerce, no? So taking in count that kind of culture, and also at the same time the problems that we was facing on the university, my main concern was the financial fraud, because 50% of our students pay by the credit cards than they have, and all the services that they use in the university. And obviously, for me, it was like nightmare just to think that eventually those hackers are going to take the information of my students. So we start to work with Trend Micro, facing a procedure and a policy where first we start to make conversations with our users, summits with the students, um, personal talking with teachers, and also with administrative executives of the university. Then we change and update our procedures, policies, and I mean, among any other government IT framework that we have, and eventually we start to place politics like if you don't have an actual an update antivirus in your computer, you cannot surface the internet through our network. Yes, you can go into the intranet and into our digital library, but you can't not surface the internet through our network. Only if you update your antivirus and your anti-spyware, and also we offer for free the service. Otherwise, you cannot be connected. And after this advice, also we start to identify which computers have this problem and their behavior. The problem is that we start to realize that many of the new malware that we are facing doesn't have a firm. This firm used to give us, a good aware of what is going on or trying to get into our network. But now many attacks are lacking this firm, and now we have to work, watching the behavior of a computer or a program. For instance, if someone is trying to send information to China, and we don't have any business in China, obviously was a bad behavior. Or if some computers wake up in the night and start to download and upload and huge amounts of information, we start to watch this kind of behavior. The thing is that in my case, the added value that I received from the people of Train Micro was real. It was the real McCoy. For sure, I have at least four vendors working with me, dedicated to security. But for me, it's a no-brainer to choose every year to Trend Micro, because they are always bringing to me something new to the table, at least every 4 months. At least every 4 months, I receive an update of a new product, or a new advice. And taking in account that in a university is like a laboratory of what is going to happen in the real life, you have to be aware that if you want to be successful and you want to be seated in the chair as the chief information officer, you have to deliver results. You have to offer good services, and obviously to have happy users. Otherwise, you're going to be in a huge problem. 90% of our platform right now, I said in the beginning that the machines don't belong to the university. Guess what? The devices that are connecting to our university, and the devices that the students use for academic activities, they are not computers. They are tablets, smartphones, or tablets. So I have to uh, give the service for those platforms like Android and iOS, But also I have to protect my servers and the information. So it was quite a deal. This thing of bring your own device. Sometimes I think that bring your own problem, because it is not quite easy. But this is what I was saying before. In the case of Trend Micro, they bring to the table many solutions for the devices, not only for the computers. My guess is that for the next year, all of us are going to face those attacks without the firm, and it's going to be such a challenge, and it's going to be very tough to identify if it is an attack or is not, how to clean the machine, how to not compromise your software assets and your database. IT security in the enterprise, at least in Mexico, is going to grow. Right now is very low, the adoption. Um, Professional services among the the base of universities, government, and private sector is just at the level of 10%. So right now, for instance, if you talk with someone, I'm not talking about chief information officers in Mexico, about do you are aware about what is darknet? Some of them are going to say no. I don't know what is darknet. I don't know what is the deep web. Do you know that if you have an elementary school or a junior high, that your students are not just facing bullying but also cyberbullying? Some of them are aware, but they are not doing something in order to put order in place. So also that means security, because you have to be aware of what is happening into your network. Guess you can see what happened right now in the Chicago University this week. This very week, a threat was placed in a social media, and thanks to that threat that was catched by the FBI, they can act, and they grab the people that was making this threat, and thanks God nothing happening. So if we're aware of what is happening, obviously we can have more control and also have more security in our network and in our communities. I will finish saying that one of the problems that we're going to face in the future is going to be the how to control the social media predators. The identity thief is going to be real tough. If we talk about long distance education, how can I be aware that the people in the other side of the computer is the guy that is supposed that it is? And how can I be sure that someone is not going to collect my information from my credit card or from my personal data? Big data means also big challenge. Obviously, in the university, we're working with this kind of projects, and at the same time with the Internet of Everything. But think about this. What about if you have a car that is full connected to the internet, and a hacker can have access to your brakes? And if you are in the middle of a highway and eventually someone say stop, so these kind of things has to be discussed. Obviously, in the university, we have the laboratories in order to put protection on place, because one thing is to have the technology to do something in hospitals, in the house, or you name it. But at the same time, and one step forward, we have to be aware of what is happening with the security. From my personal point of view, I think that companies like Trend Micro, that thanks God, so far not another company have bought it yet. It's gonna give them a lot of freedom in order to achieve goals uh, faster, and to don't work for the shareholders or stuff like that, or for the markets, and concentrate on the customers. uh, big big suppliers definitely can cover a lot of things, but sometimes you are just one customer. And in the case of Trend Micro, you can feel that you are the customer. What I mean is that they have this they are warm with the service. They are always keeping contact with you. They are sending you emails. They have seminars. They have different products. They are going to body you to place a new proofs of concepts. And that's the kind of people that you want in your site. People that are active, that are part of your team, no, that are working with you. During the next future, my guess is that in the next 5 years, at least in our university, computers are going to lose land, are going to lose, the place that they used to have, and I have to offer more services, virtualized, in order to work with the phablets, tablets, and smartphones. It is not going to be easy because Android has more than 100 versions. It depends from your vendor. It depends from your carrier. Eventually, Microsoft operating system is going to grow, so now I have to think in three operating different systems, in order to achieve the goals of performance, but also at the same time of security. So it is not going to be easy. No, it is not going to be easy. For any kind of contacts, I give you my information. My Twitter address is Thompson Fair, and I have some portal. And well, it's a shame that most of my content is in Spanish. From every 50 posts that I place, one is in English and the rest in Spanish. But we can keep in contact and still communicating. Thanks, Wendy. That's my presentation.